Morning, tubes. How you doing today? Well, today I'm going to try to salvage a little bit of this lumber that's over here. It's been here for a year or better. Of course, a lot of it's treated lumber. It didn't hurt it at all, but it's almost all reject. It's got warps in it and cracks and whatever. And the other day when we moved that one container, we also moved some small animals and put in some new cages. Well, that's great. The only thing of it is they're in a kind of a narrow area. They're down on the floor, and it's difficult for me to bend over and get down to work with them and reach back in their cages. So we're gonna cut some of these boards at 58 inches, and we're going to make a couple extensions on these sawhorses to eventually make them a little wider to support them, and then cut these sawhorses down to about that height right there. That'll get it up off the floor where, you know, it's a little easier for me to work with and Karen to work with. But anyway, that's the gist of it. Here we're going to try to get going and get some of this done. Other than that, it's a nice morning. It's fairly cool. It's about 65. We didn't have hardly any dew last night at all, which, you know, here in this part of Washington, we usually have a lot of dew. And but it's supposed to warm up, I think 78 here after a while. And then of course when the sun comes out, I'm not worth a flip. With diabetes and stuff, you know, I have trouble controlling my temperature. So what would be comfortable for some people, not comfortable for me at all. And I run for the air conditioner or the fan or something, try to get out of it. And just turn into a big wuss. But anyway, what we're working on now is these 58-inch pieces of this stuff here. I had a source for this stuff here a year or better ago for reject lumber. I used to get it for just hauling it off, and of course that's changed now, and boy, it was really handy to have that, especially for stuff on the farm here, because, you know, I could cut bad areas out of there and stuff, and kind of make do with it. I didn't have to have real long pieces all the time and stuff, but anyway, we'll get one of these cut, and then I think we'll get a couple of them out of this 2x6 here, and bind there. Gotta quit leaning on my projects, huh? Alright. So we'll put that in up in the truck here for material. Get another one up here. Everything is around a little farm like this is useful. I save all the little pieces, unless they're so small they end up in a little wood stove. But in general, you know, there's so much of this stuff that you just need a small piece of wood, and like I've got anywhere, if you watch these videos and you'll see exposed dirt. Well, guys, here in Western Washington, exposed dirt means mud. Not only mud, we're talking about gumbo. And I got big feet already, but you try walking through this gumbo and you're going to have real problems. So what we do is, in lieu of spending a lot of money on gravel, which eventually we have to get, but for right now, this season, with all the expenses of moving this stuff, we'll improvise with wooden walkways about 2 foot wide, and they're just built on 2x4s with cross pieces, and it keeps us out of the mud. And the biggest thing, you know, when you get to be older like I am and stuff, there's always a danger of falling. I don't have good balance anyway. I've got spinal problems and stuff, and so I'm trying to kind of guard against falling. And so part of it's for safety, as well as the fact you get that mud on your shoes and everything, and I'm gonna tell you, you can't hardly get it off. It's really in the world of clay, we have some of the finest clays out here that you could ever want. In fact, there used to be brick plants in various areas out here, and I think what happened was their source for fuel to fire the brick became either too expensive or not available at the time. I know there was a plant where I was raised at Ridgefield, the Ridgefield Brick Company, that was quite old at one time, and we did find some of their brick in Portland in buildings years ago, but they ceased. They used wood for their kilns, and you know, the price of wood and the availability as the logging spread farther and farther away and stuff, I guess it made it prohibitive on the amount of wood that it would take to fire the brick. Most brick is fired in the world today by gas. It's probably the cheapest method, and very available and clean burning, I guess. So at one time in Louisiana, I worked for Acme Brick Company, and we were located within a quarter of a mile of a major natural gas pipeline, and that was their godsend there, was that they could get that gas at a very, very reasonable price. And, I don't know what I'm doing here. I'm either too long or too short. I guess I'll just have to be Superman and hold the board up here just a little bit when I'm cutting it. It'll be okay. I'm not not much of a carpenter. One of the mechanics who used to work for me said that I was a wood butcher, which I you know, I didn't take it as an insult, because he was we always lived telling each other the truth, and I think he was pretty accurate. I think I'm pretty much a wood butcher, but nevertheless, it's I can do good enough here on the little farm here to get by with anyway. saps left in those after they treated them. I guess that's par for the course. Another problem is, like these walkways I was telling you about. Okay, well we got some long pieces here. You think, well, you leave them long and then maybe it'd speed it up, right? Well, unless you want to grade everything, the long doesn't conform to the little changes of the angle of the ground, so I prefer making them in about 5 or 6 foot sections, and then that way they kind of lay on the ground better. And there again, they're really only temporary for usually 1 winter or maybe 2, and then we'll go to something else. But the main thing is, like these supports, these 58-inch ones I'm cutting now, those are real nice cages, and if you don't support them evenly underneath, you know, they bend pretty easy and stuff. So it's to your advantage to make sure they're supported. It'll last a lot longer. Pretty well gaining on this here. Okay, well, let's see here. About 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, although, see, they've all got all these, when you look at them, first you look okay, and then you'll see that they got warps in them, or twists. So, there again, we're trying to kind of cut the worst of it out, and you got to admit the price was right, so we're not complaining. What we got here now is, let's see, we got 3, 4, we got six of those. Now we need 2 made up for cross pieces, and I think we'll make those 2 6 here. Get this out of here. We've been almost driving into this lumber here for over a year. So I'm kind of glad to get it out of here. Now you see that thing there, that'd make a piece of shipwood to wrap around the bow or something. Now see, this is, I know you can't see it, but this has got a major split in it. Another split here, but this one split runs all the way back. So see, you lose some of it because it's you know, imperfect. But a lot of times I take this stuff that's split like this, and if I'm making those walkways I'm telling you about, I go ahead and lay it down and I just nail it so that the splits are secured, and they work just fine. I sure wouldn't want to pay the price that they want for premium lumber to do some of the stuff we do around here. And then also we end up not necessarily by design, but just in the course of building and making changes, a lot of times we end up making something and then we have to tear it down a year later and expand it or move it or something, because we're still clearing land and trying to expand the area that we have to work in. And right now we're in a very narrow corridor. It makes it a little tight. Let's see here now. That piece there. Might as well take it with us. Falling apart, but okay. Now these are going to be additions on the top here, and let's see what we got here to start with. Got about 30 inches, and we need to go to about 39. Yeah, about 39. So we'll come on down here. We'll get us just 2 chunks of 39s here, and that'll be our additions on these things. And let's see here. Well, I don't think you can see the twist in this thing, but it's pretty twisted. Yeah. There we go. I will mark both of those out while we're doing it. No biggie. Okay, get these 2 cut here. One thing, this is Douglas fir. Sure got a good smell to it. So let's see here. What do we got left over here? See if we got enough here to get a. I don't think it's 48, but well, you know what? It's 47. Let's see. Now this end here is split. So let's get a 24 out of there, and what we're doing is we'll get a 24, and when we're building those mud walks that I told you about, well, this will be one piece. Sometimes we use a 2x6 at the head end or the tail end because of the spacing. I utilize these 4-foot 2x4s on a lot of them as the runners. I told you I don't like to make them over 6 foot, but 4 to 5 foot sections is about all I make, and that way they lay better on the ground without killing yourself shoveling and doing a lot of preparation. What happens is you lay them down on the ground, then the wet season comes along, we get frost heaves and everything else, and by spring the things are bedded in and almost look like they were laid with a laser level. So all that extra work you're doing hasn't proved to be necessary, other than the fact that you're wearing yourself out. I think that that's one of the things that we learn as we get older, especially not so bad if you're not stoved up with arthritis or pinched nerves or something, you know, but in general, as you get older, you somewhat become a little smarter in how you work, because you know, you try to make every